Hi everyone, myself Nakuprati. In this video, I will be talking about AWS Lambda and its superpowers. So let's see what is Lambda. In simple definition, AWS Lambda is an AWS service which offers compute for running our code. So, but the official definition goes like this. If you are interested, AWS Lambda is a serverless event-driven compute service that lets you run your code virtually on any type of application or backend service without provisioning or managing servers. You can trigger Lambda from over 200 AWS services and different SaaS applications and only pay for what you use. So don't worry if it is not clear. It will be more clear if I go through its superpowers and explain you via demo. And this is the Lambda documentation and is worth exploring one because AWS team constantly updates and make it more useful for the user to use it. So this is AWS Lambda and different options and configurations and different things which we can do are described in this documentation link. Now let's go to the superpowers. So Lambda is a serverless compute and you only pay for what you use. So to show this option, to show this, I will be doing this task live. I will show you created Lambda and I will text trigger it, text execute it, and show how we can see different logging. Superpower 2, so event driven, so it can be triggered from different over 200 services, and it can also in turn trigger different AWS services via API calls using Boto 3. So I will tell you more about how to do a test trigger and how Lambda can be triggered from another service. For the demo I will be showcasing in part 2, and how to trigger Lambda from how to trigger Lambda from another service which I have discussed, and how Lambda can trigger another service. Then I will show you how we can create Lambda, and during the creation, what I will do is like I will do a quick AWS console tour, and during its creation I will talk about the things like role and VPC which are required for creating Lambda efficiently, particularly in an organization, and show different important properties of Lambda. So let's go to superpower 1. So created Lambda. So this is my created Lambda under functions, and here if you can see there is a Lambda function .py file which has a Lambda handler function which takes two inputs, event and context, and basically you can print these whatever the things you require. So for simplicity let's comment all these things, and let's print a small print statement, print new onboarding new onboarding, control S to save the function, and deploy to deploy the function. So once the successfully updated the function, then we can trigger it. We can just test and it will trigger, and it will say in the logs it will show you new onboarding here itself. But the good way of, there are more logs there can be truncation, and also if you might need to visit particular logs in later. So the ideal way to look the logs is go to monitor and view CloudWatch logs. It will take you to another service, CloudWatch logs, where you can filter, you can select the latest log stream, where you say you can see the print statements of your function Python code. This is new onboarding. So CloudWatch is nothing but it's also an AWS service which have this log group which maintains different logs, metrics, and also provide us some utilities uh, create to create or extract information and do action on these logs and metrics. So yeah, basically you can see it's a place to store different logs and metrics. As of now, we can discuss more later. So yeah, this is place you can visit when you want to logs. So this is the superpower of Lambda basically. So you just write your code and like you write in code editor and execute it, and basically you can have your execution behind the scenes taken care by AWS on its own managed servers, and you only bill for only the duration which your code runs. Here if you see duration, and the bill duration is 2 millisecond, as it's rounded to nearby millisecond, and it is giving it will cost you like that. So now we have seen how a serverless compute works. Just write your code and how you pay only for your use for the time you have used. Now let's go to the superpower 2, how to trigger a Lambda and how Lambda can trigger. So actually for debugging your code or debugging the things, the way to trigger Lambda is using a test trigger. So you can click here and you can configure your test. You can give any JSON like cloud of code and onboard true, something like this, and save it, or you can create a new event, and it's better here. Create a new event, some onboard s, save it. Oh, you need to create a event name or give it an event name. Test 1, say test 2. Once you save the test event, you go to your Lambda function. Test 2 is the event which we created. Select the test 2 event and just test it. Now you can see the new onboarding, and again if you want to interested in seeing the event input basically which you have passed, it is passed as an event to the Lambda function handler function. So you just I'm printing the statement event and see what it printed. Control S and I deploy the function. Once you deployed it, again you select your test event test 2 and test. See here the event printed is name and onboard S. So in this way the input is being given to Lambda function via event, and using this event you can write your code accordingly. So this is the test trigger of any Lambda function, how you can do. You can also add, actually advantage of superpowers is to add as Lambda can be triggered from over 200 AWS services. As you can see here, one important service is API gateway, yeah, which we will discuss later in the later video. So this is the one how to trigger, how Lambda can trigger is from within the function via using Boto 3 kind of Python packages which can invoke almost any AWS service. so that you can write those API calls within your code and give Lambda sufficient permissions to execute that code. So this is how basically how Lambda can trigger many other services. And yeah, so we have seen how Lambda got triggered from other services, and Lambda can trigger another services like endpoints and different stuff in theory, but we'll see in the demo actually. So this is the event driven kind of superpower Lambda has. These are the two most superpowers Lambda contains, which makes it important in different things, in different applications. Now let's see how we can create a Lambda. So go to AWS homepage. When you need to have a AWS account for doing this. If not, you create an AWS account. Then once you created an AWS account, you will have this homepage. Search for AWS Lambda and visit the AWS Lambda. So these are the functions which is already created. Let's create a function test one, or yeah, test one. Let's say test one, and you can select different runtimes, Python 1 2 3, like, and different languages basically for the Lambda. You can have Node.js option and Ruby. Selecting Python, and there are two important things which can ideally you need to use for creating a Lambda for an organization. So these will enable us to create a Lambda efficiently within an organization. So one important thing is role. So you need to uh, limit or you need to provide some permissions to the Lambda to do some stuff like triggering an endpoint or triggering some other service or get data from S3 bucket or doing different activities. You need to give Lambda some permissions to do it. So that can be given using Lambda roles. Uh, Basically, in generally in an organization, you might have some specified rules which you can use within for your survey, for your things, for your Lambda, or you can create a new role with the basic Lambda permissions. But remember to do more activities rather than basic things like logging. You need to attach some permissions for this Lambda to do the activities like invoking endpoint or getting data like that. So let's create a new role with Lambda basic permissions, and I will show you how a role looks like. But to basically to get more information of what this role is and how to attach permissions, I have done a video. I am intro and I am console user, but I am intro basically. You please watch this video as it makes things clear for you, what is role and how to attach and how to write a role. You go to ML and Cloud Naku and you see this I am intro video. I will attach this in the description also of this video. Now let's go to another advanced settings which are important for an organization. Add tags. You need to add particular tags like on board equal to true or as something like which your organization must be having. So these will help efficiently tag efficiently cost your resource within the organization, and also uh, makes it clear for the organization to enhance some rules or enforce some rules on the resources. So you must provide some tags which are required for an organization. The other important feature is VPC. This basically you need to provide this information while creation, because in an organization you have some networking rules to follow. So by following this you will be enforcing them on Lambda. So you need to follow those as per our organization rules. Generally you need to select an VPC and you need to search for private subnets, and you can select two private subnets and choose a default security group for you to use. But yeah, that is your organization principle to use. Contact your related uh, info teams for the information. But to get more idea on how VPC works, what are subnets and security groups, please watch my video on VPC intro basics. And also I have given a demos with public and private subnets. Please watch them. But to give an overview, VPC is okay, I can show you one image which one of the video which can give a good overview. So VP, this is our service Lambda. This will be attached via security group, which is enclosed by the subnets and VPC, which allow our interactions. Basically these are nothing but to allow proper interactions in terms of networking between our service or server like Lambda with external walls and with external walls. That is the main advantage. But there are other advantages which comes with routings, which you can get more information by watching my videos, other videos on VPCs. Basically these three videos: VPC demo with public and intro basics. So being said, let's create the function. It will create my test function. It might take a couple of minutes, sorry, couple of minute or two. Let's wait for it and we'll show you what exactly. Meanwhile, let's see, go to the slide. So I have given a AWS console tour. You need to prerequisite is you need to have a AWS account, and I showed you Lambda creation, and I discussed about the role and the VPC uh, which are used for creating a Lambda. Role is nothing but, I told you, like, role is nothing but a permissions to be attached to our Lambda to do certain things. VPC and subnets and security groups are to give a Lambda a proper networking configuration, and I showed you I give the references. Once the Lambda is created, I will show you different important properties and I will end the video. So okay, to give you a summary, we have discussed what is Lambda, what is SuperPower 1, serverless compute pay for use, SuperPower 2, event driven nature of Lambda, and how we can create Lambda. Let's see test one, right? It's still creating the Lambda. Let's wait for a few more seconds. But meanwhile I can show you the important properties where you can see and you can change also. You go to configuration, general configuration. This is the timeout. If your code is executing more than 3 seconds, you need to edit to more than that, but this is a default configuration, you can edit. Similarly, the memory also, the maximum memory which function your code basically can require, you need to set it accordingly. Then triggers we haven't discussed, I mean we have discussed in theory but not in it. So permissions, so this is IAM role which I talked about, where you can go to this, click on this, and you go to the IAM role page and you can edit your permissions, edit your permissions. Basically you can add permissions, different things, which will be more clear when you see the video. And these are the tags on board as which are important for the identification of this resource. And this is the VPC configuration which you can edit also. Tags also you can edit, by the way. here PPC configuration, you can edit, you can uh, I mean change the security groups or if you don't require. And there are different other properties also. For the time constraints or for the simplicity, I'm avoiding those. So this is the general configuration and things. Still our lambda is being created. If you can see here blue thing, let's wait for some more time. And let since once lambda is created, I want to show how you can trigger a test event, and you can debug, which is used for your debugging code, and then can add your triggers. So I will just show you a test trigger, and I will close this video. Yeah, think video might already taken some time. Yeah, now the function is created successfully. Now create a test event, configure test event, give a name test1, and let it be key value. Okay, let's say let it be a sample something I have given, and save it, right? And I'm just printing the event. Control S to save it. Deploy for deploying. Once deployed, I select this test event and click on test. It will test, I give you the response, written response, and it will give you the event which is triggered. You can have this event here also. I mean, like, yeah, you can change this event also. Yeah. It will, yeah, see here the body is given whatever the input which you are given. This is how you can basically uh, create a lambda which takes input as an event and outputs returns something, uh, uh, and you can use it in your applications. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. Hope it will be useful for you.